Good evening and welcome to Gibson's Bookstore. I'm Elizabeth, the events coordinator for Gibson's Bookstore, and I am joined today by two New Hampshire authors. We are joined tonight by Nathan Graziano and Rob Azevedo, and they are returning to Gibson's Bookstore, this time virtually, as they share their two new books. Nate has written Fly Like the Seagull, a collection of surreal short stories, and Rob has written Turning on the Wasp, a collection of poetry. Both of these books are available from Gibson's Bookstore. They will be showing up tomorrow, I believe, and we are ready to ship them out, or they are available for in-store browsing or curbside pickup. Gentlemen, thank you so much to each of you for joining us this evening. Thank you for coming back to Gibson's so that we could do this event with you. Please tell me a little bit about your books.
Okay,
Uh,
Graz.
all right, I'll start. Yeah. Fly Like the Seagull is really kind of it's a departure from anything that I've written in the past, and I'm not really sure the genesis of it. But I do remember at some point during the drafting of it, thinking, because a lot of my older stuff, my poetry and fiction, is pretty much straight realism. And I remember after the election of Donald Trump, thinking that this just won't cut it anymore. That reality is far too weird, and no one wants to read about that, and nor do I. And I became really kind of disinterested with it. So I took this character that was based off of my previous collection, which was called Almost Christmas, um, and I made him into something else. People have asked me, what is the seagull? He's some sort of a deity? Is he a psychological man? And I don't know. Like I really don't, nor would I want to answer that question, because it siphons all the fun out of reading. So, essentially the seagull can be whatever you'd like him to be. But then, as I continued writing the seagull stories, I interjected myself into it and made myself one of the characters, and framed it around this idea that that Nate was writing a book about the seagull, and the seagull had stolen his fiance. And then the rest of the book really was Nate writing the book, and again, we were just talking with Elizabeth about this, breaking that fourth wall. And I can say of just about anything that I've written, I probably had more fun writing this book than anything I've written in the past. I threw a band into the wind and did whatever came to me, and whimsically, and you know I I had fun, and I think there's something to be said for that, at least from the writer's side of the desk. When you're enjoying, and screw writing, anything, when you're enjoying what you're doing, then it becomes a pleasure, and this really it was a pleasure for me. So.
Nice, Graz. Hi, everybody. So this is my book right here. It's called Turning on the Wasp, and it's my first book of poetry. It's really the first number of poems that I've written in 30 years. And I hadn't written a poem, I don't think, since I was in college. And up to that point, I'd probably written 5 in my life. And I really didn't understand or enjoy any amount of poetry. Way over my head, just didn't really grasp it. And then this past April, I found myself at home, maybe more than I used to, but I don't know if that is why I started writing them. Did not have anything, I don't think, to do with COVID. But I don't know why I started writing them, but I would get up in the morning and I would just start writing poetry. And I would try to write a poem and spend no more time than, say, 20 minutes to 30 minutes on it, and then be done with it. And go back, maybe do a little tinkering. And I had no idea what I was going to be doing with the book or any of these poems. So I did what a lot of unestablished poets do, and I sent it out to I sent 3 poems to a website that I thought was just, maybe they will run them on the website. And the publisher got back to me. It turned out to be a guy named Jason from Spartan Press, who me and Graz, same publisher on this book. And he asked for 50 more, like them. And so, like, trick to all wannabe writers out there, I said, oh yeah, I'll send you another 50 poems. Did not have them. So, fake it till you make it. And I busted out another 50 poems and I sent them to him. And I got an email a few weeks later saying, let's do this in January. Me and Graz had talked about this. And I was like, what are we doing in January? And he's like, I want to put out a book of these poems. And I was beyond beside myself that I would actually have a second book on a bookshelf, but that he put it out. And I was so happy. And Turning on the Wasp is a poem that I wrote. I got the title from a poem that I wrote because a couple summers ago, I was putting on a concert up in Suncook, New Hampshire, and I had gotten stung by a wasp in the face. And 10 minutes after I had was wrapping up wires and trying to shut down the event, boom, I went down and my body went into complete shock by the venom. And my wife was there and a bunch of friends of mine were there. And my heart rate slowed and I couldn't breathe. I was out cold. I don't remember any of it. And I came to in an ambulance on the way to Concord Hospital. So I got away with, from what the doctor told me, I lucked out. So that's the book. So I have 50 poems in this book, and I'm looking forward to reading some off to you.
Awesome, Robbie.
Yeah, buddy. So Graz, up to you, man. You want to go first?
All right. So I guess we'll start this thing. I do think I'm in the book itself. There are parallel stories in each section, but it does need a setup, and this is actually the setup to the book, and this is the piece that was from Almost Christmas, and this will give you the background on who the seagull is and what's going on as I move forward here. So it's aptly titled The Story of the Seagull. It was a Tuesday afternoon and raining, a downpour that deposited a shallow, murky pond in the dirt parking lot outside the bar. Inside, Toby and I were splitting pitchers and trying to score a gram. Fox News was muted on the television behind the bar, a silence that soothed me as the ticker on the bottom of the screen scrolled through the headlines. A guy with a bald dome and inky black hair pulled into a tight ponytail walked in and sat on the stool beside Toby. He ordered a draft from Cindy and stared straight into the mirror behind the top shelf bottles. Call! Call! Toby called like a bird. Startled, the man snapped his head to the side and stared at Toby, hard and unblinking, as if, and as soon as Cindy finished pouring his beer, the man took his mug and moved to an empty table in the back, beneath a lighted Budweiser sign. What was that all about? I asked Toby, waiting for a text. It's Jimmy Lucas, Toby said. I worked with him at the Northborough Times about 10 years ago. He had more hair then and this weird obsession with Steven Seagal. The guy walked around the warehouse like he was on the set of Hard to Kill, doing spin kicks and striking karate poses. I got a text from the dealer, but he was picking up outside of Northborough and wouldn't be back for 2 hours. So what's with the bird call? I asked. Well, Jimmy got a vanity plate for his car, and he wanted it to say Seagal. But the fucker couldn't spell the last name, so the license plate ended up spelling Seagull. So when he'd come into work, we'd make bird calls and yell, "It's the Seagull." Jimmy got so fed up that he ended up quitting. I think he works at a supermarket now, in the seafood section. Can you believe that? The Seagull sells fish. You couldn't write that, I said. You tell me, Toby said. You're the writer. Not lately, I said. I can't seem to get started on the next book. Then my phone buzzed, and it was a different guy. Bingo! I turned to Toby. I can grab a gram, but I have to meet the dude at the mobile station 2 blocks away, and it's pouring out. I don't mind getting wet, said Toby. I'll drive you. Like a ninja, the seagull approached from behind without us noticing. Jimmy, you're my hero, Toby said. Call me the seagull. It's you, I said. You're the one I'm going to write a book about. You always knew, said the seagull, his keys dangling from his index finger. This was meant to happen. Namaste, Nate. Namaste, seagull. And the seagull was right. I always knew it was him. And this was meant to happen. So that's a setup to the book. And then I'll give you just a brief synopsis. What happens in the next section is that the seagull steals Nate's fiance at a grocery store. And then Nate and the seagull go to watch David Lee Roth or have David Lee Roth sign one of their books. And eventually that gets Nate writing the book, and that's where we'll pick up. So
Love that.
all you, Robbie.
Love that story, Graz. I feel like I'm sitting right there with you.
Cool.
All right, good stuff, Graz. All right, so in no particular order, I just chose, and I'll read a couple because at a time, because it'll take up a little bit of time, but none of these are terribly long. So page 6, Turning on the Wasp, there's a poem called I Can't Wait. Unless the mud is soaked like hot flowing lava, I can't wait. Unless the rich are filled with grace and spirit, I can't wait. Unless the poor are fed and considered, I can't wait. Unless the proud are graceful in their adorations, I cannot wait. Unless the mountains rise with the burning sun, I can't wait. Unless love blooms across a nation divided, I can't wait. Unless pride is restored in the minds of the wicked, I can't wait. Unless peace is sprung upon vicious minds, I can't wait. Unless forgiveness is granted to those who sin, I can't wait. Unless gratitude is bestowed upon those who sacrifice with honor, I can't wait. Unless, well, no, I just can't wait. And I think that's got to do with most of the poetry I would write. I'd be sitting right here in this seat, and I'd have, as we all know, I'd have the TV running on the news 24/7. It was an addiction. God. It was a sin. I mean, I just poisoned myself like many other throughout the summer. But I don't know about any of the subconscious or where poems come from or not, but I'm sure it's from can't wait until this is all over. Second poem is called Blinding, Keeping, Begging, and Blaming. Page 13, Turning on the Wasp. The governing masses with delinquent minds throw sawdust in the naked eye of nature, blinding us wildly into hysteria, heaping chunky bits of bile onto our baffled minds, hanging slogans on our precious trees, blaming madness on angry mobs, demoralizing demonstrators, vilifying the media, redefining our genders, systematically defacing our pleasures, shunning poverty for profit, rising only to meet the fears they bred as they beg us to drink from their vicious cups, overflowing with greed and power. See, again, that damn TV, is angling me towards the topics.
Seems in your own way, Robbie. Am I wrong here? But you were also affected by the climate of the last 4 years while writing these.
Oh, hell yeah! Oh yeah! You walk around with a level of heaviness. Hey, if you were for our last president, then you felt great. But if he made you nauseous, then you were just nauseous for 4 years. So and I fell on the nauseous side.
Yeah, I needed some Tums myself. But
Yeah. So I just banged out 2, Graz. I don't know how you want me to.
read one more because I got a little bit of a longer piece coming. So
A little bit more of that beer left.
what? Grape soda.
Right. This is called Jousting for Mercy. Page 16, Turning on the Wasp. Together we ride on flaming wings into the coiled underworld, gulping at the embers which choke us, which choke our existence. Our calves empty of blood, our toes scratched and twitching at the earth, fading floors as we rush headlong into the gallows, dressed in our Sunday best. The lawless hunter, which stole our souls, now masks our eyes with matted hair, as a river beyond cries songs of mercy. My sister, blinded and weightless, sways in the gray autumn sound, now filled with echoes of the ignorant, gagging on our choices, ruined without love, docked for life in these septic woods, jousting for mercy.
Nice.
So that's it right there. Those are 3 right there.
All right, so I'll follow it with one of the chapters here, and just to remind you, this is now Nate's book. This is the book that Nate's writing about the seagull. In the first piece, this is actually the first piece in Nate's book. I'm talking about myself in the third person like an idiot, but this is called Tinder Date. This Tinder thing had Eloise scratching her hands raw, her eczema flaring the second she swiped right. She now stared into her daughter's closet, scratching, trying to decide on something to wear for her date. Alyssa, her only child, was sleeping at a friend's house for the night. Or so Alyssa, a senior at Northborough High School, told her mother. Eloise, however, suspected she was staying with her boyfriend in his dorm at Northborough College. At 42, Eloise felt too old, too desperate, too unhip to be using a dating application and wearing a teenager's dress. Who was she kidding? Tinder wasn't a dating app. It was a no-strings-attached, come-over-and-fuck app. But Eloise mustered her courage and picked out a form-fitting, strapless blue dress her daughter wore to the homecoming dance that fall. It fit Eloise perfectly, a small point of pride. Meanwhile, Eloise's estranged spouse, Al, had been checking off the boxes in his textbook midlife crisis. 22-year-old girlfriend named Tiffany, check. Sporty new convertible, check. Hair transplants from Dr. Dick Doyle's Male Enhancement Clinic, check. A gym membership and a year's supply of creatine shakes, check, and yet another check. A retired firefighter, Al moved out that summer, paid Eloise a year's worth of child support, and drove off with Tiffany, top down and transplanted pubic hair blowing in the breeze, to San Diego to work with his brother who had opened a marijuana dispensary. Fuck Al, Eloise muttered while changing into a clean bra and panties and squeezing back into the dress. She knew, by the way, the boys in her intro to lit class at Northborough College sometimes stared at her. The muffled MILF comments were easier to ignore. That she was attractive and desirable, still, self-doubt loomed. And she used a picture from her mid-30s for her Tinder profile. A picture that Al snapped on the deck of a Carnival cruise of Eloise in a red bikini. And less than 10 minutes after activating her account, she received her first request. His name was Jimmy, and he lived on the outskirts of Northborough. From his profile picture, he looked a little like a young Steven Seagal, with a prominent jaw and thick black hair pulled back into a tight ponytail. He didn't list a specific age, simply in the middle of things, and included fishing, performance poetry, and martial arts as his hobbies. He was attractive and Quite frankly, Eloise wanted to get laid. She wanted something else to fill a cold pit inside her that brimmed with anger and shame and Chardonnay since Al left. So Eloise arranged for Jimmy to pick her up at her house, a decision that now seemed impetuous and foolish. Part of her, however, embraced the spark of danger as it lit that cold pit. She walked downstairs and poured herself a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table. She was the mother of a teenage girl, an adjunct college professor, a member of a book club consisting of insipid housewives who, many moons ago, were undergraduate English majors, but now they seldom talked about Virginia Woolf. Instead, they used the book club meetings to complain about their husbands' limp dicks and their children's activities that peppered their already busy schedule. Maybe Eloise was too old to be wasting her time on a frivolous fling, something she seldom did when she was single. The doorbell rang and Eloise downed the wine and applied a fresh layer of rose-colored lipstick. She stood up in her daughter's slinky dress and made her way to the front door, taking long breaths. When she opened it, the man standing on the steps had a bald dome and inky black hair pulled into a tight ponytail. He vaguely resembled Steven Seagal, only the bloated and washed out Steven Seagal living in Russia after his movie career crashed. "You must be Jimmy," Eloise said, unable to conceal the disappointment in her voice. "You can call me the Seagull," he said, then leapt into the air and did a series of spin kicks. When he was finished, he pressed his palms together in front of his chest and bowed his head. "Namaste, Eloise," he said. Eloise pressed her hands together and bowed. "Namaste, Seagull," she said, and watched as the seagull sprouted billowy white wings from his shoulder blades and flew toward a patch of purple clouds blanketing the late evening sky. Eloise smiled, then went back into the house, poured another glass of wine, and ordered Chinese food, having a hankering for shrimp fried rice.
Good stuff, Graz. Was that a fun section? Was that a fun section to write, Graz?
It was. I mean, because I think it's nearly impossible, I think, for projections of yourself not to seep into your fiction. And certainly I'm a middle-aged guy, and I'm married. I got a middle-aged wife, and all these things start to surface, and it was fun. It was fun to just imagine this, and then to see the seagull actually be stand up, and he's stand up in just about all these stories.
Yeah, good job. I love it. All right, I will jump back in. So this, I can definitely tell you where this came from. So live in Manchester, love Manchester about as much as I love my family. For some odd reason, I am just indebted to this town, and fits me like a perfect shoe. And so every Friday night when I'm going to do my job at the radio station, park downtown. And I remember during the summertime on Elm Street, I would always park and I'd walk past what would seem like the biggest contrast you could ever imagine of two different lives. I would walk past Campo's, which is a really beautiful restaurant, high-end restaurant. People would be sitting outside, clear china, clear glasses of wine, perfectly creased humans, looking perfect. Then I would walk in no less than 50 yards, left-hand side, same street, within a tennis ball throw, there would be a homeless, 2 to 3 homeless people pretty much sitting under a cardboard box or, basically in disarray, sleeping on the sidewalk. And it just always blew my mind that within 50 yards how much lives can be different. And I know it's not just Manchester, it's all over. You can have it up in Concord, you could have it in Rhode Island, you could have it in Massachusetts. But it always blew me away that such a thin line between living the high life and living the low life. So I wrote from the perspective of one of the people in the cardboard box and the people who walk by, maybe heading to Campos, maybe not. This is called You See Me, page 39. You see me, all you rank strangers, dragged and whipped about. You don't deserve my tears. They will boil first before I set gaze upon your broken smile as you whisper and hint at my rotten luck. You see the birthmarks of my sins, the scars, the flames from my bloodless arms, my buckled knees, my chinless jaw. You see me faded out, licking the curb at midnight, fighting the nod as quarters fly faceless into the ruined gutter beneath my empty cup. You see me there in your nightmares, fighting back rusted tears, chasing you beyond the trees while you plow the earth with my battered face. Oh, you see me, but you will never see my tears. They are only mine to taste.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice, Robbie. Yeah.
Thank you. And then I'll read this one, Step into the Box, page 42. I think this was like Step into the Box. I think I was thinking about, I don't know, I was probably listening to watching somebody or hearing, could have been a friend or something, about things they want to do, things they want to do, things they want to do, and it not done. And so basically it's like, Graz, you can relate, step into the batter's box and take a cut. Take a cut.
Yeah, right.
Step into the box, page 42, turning on the Wasp. Wash down your mirror, brother, and make it shine bright again. For the light in your eyes has vanished and done warped your vision of right and wrong. Step into the box, son, and get right with God, whoever that may be. Spill your sins, then wash your face with lawless tears. Mumble clearly, then seal your faith with a legion of godless prayers. Bring your ego to a halt, sister. Burn it out of yourself and knock it back into its rightful place. Hordes of haters will love you for your calming presence, now plucked and trimmed and properly approachable. Call on the people you left, Father, the little tykes with runny noses, buckled thoughts and caustic manners, needing only a beefy shoulder to lean on and a steady heart to trust. Then turn the page and move the fuck on.
Nice.
And I'll read another one before getting back to you, Graz. Oh, we'll get a little sexy on this one. This is called Still Burning, page 46. She ran her eyes across mine with legs shining of burnt oil, a buttocks built out of bedrock, with toes cut like diamonds, painted a red shovel glow, digging deep into flowing loins, battered about wall to wall by waves of dizziness, cresting with lust, bulging with desire, beyond proper and owned by buttery skin. Her whipped lock hair, her balloon lips lying, owning my thoughts, my vices, my haughty ways. So I slunk away, half a man, and closed my eyes, dreamed of oils and rocks and shovels, then slept in sweat, still burning.
Nice. Yeah, some suggestive language there, huh?
Getting naughty.
Naughty. All right, so this will be and then Rob and I decided we're gonna finish. We're each gonna read a poem from one another after this next round. So this is kind of Eloise's follow-up. This is from the book. See, it actually exists. I did write this. It's called Fly Like the Seagull. It will be at Gibson's, and please, folks, I beg of you, if you're going to purchase copies of either of our books, support your small independent presses and your small independent bookstores. So this is called Bad Love on the Elliptical. Tiffany turned and watched Al on the elliptical machine beside her at Planet Fitness. She wondered if all men sweat so profusely as they get older. Guys her own age, she was 22, were gross in the way all men are gross. They farted and scratched themselves, and occasionally they masturbated in her panties. But there was something particularly sad about watching a man get old. His hair disappearing from places where it belongs and reappearing in stranger places. Ears and nostrils, necks and nipples. There was something bilious and heartbreaking about watching a man talk to his dick before sex, like a coach giving a pep talk. Tiffany vaguely recalled a poem from her Introduction to Literature course at Northborough College, where some guy was irked about getting old and sailed someplace where everyone got off on poetry or something. She remembered that the poem didn't make a lot of sense at the time, and that Al's wife, who taught the course, gave her a C- on a paper she wrote about it. The grade was a gift. Now she couldn't remember the name of the poem or the poet who wrote it. While watching Al sweat with his earbuds and hair plugs, his head nodding to whatever old guy electric guitar music he was listening to, most likely the cult Sonic Temple, Tiffany decided it was time to follow through with what she'd been thinking about doing for weeks, since they returned from his midlife crisis road trip to California, where Al was supposed to work at his brother's dispensary, but it had already gone under. Al turned to Tiffany and gave her an exuberant double thumbs up and a toothy smile, where it was obvious that he'd been overdoing it on the whitening strips. Tiffany turned in the opposite direction, pretending she didn't see that terrible flash of teeth. Wearing black yoga pants and a pink top, she also pretended not to notice the young guy on the treadmill next to her, his strong jaw and his hat turned backwards, who was checking her out. Meanwhile, by the free weights in the far corner of the gym, a crowd had gathered around one of the flat benches where iron clanked against iron. Tiffany turned back to Al, sweat drenching the front of his white t-shirt and his chest hair sprouting like gray weeds from the neckline. For a 46-year-old guy, he was still in good shape. He drank protein shakes and snacked on raw vegetables. His arms were toned and muscular, if not for the archaic barbed wire armband tattoo that was cool 20 years ago, he could have passed for 38. And the fact that he had a nice pension from the fire department, Tiffany never paid any time they went out. That was another bonus of dating a 46-year-old man. But Al's daughter, who was 18 and about to graduate high school, was closer to Tiffany's age than Al. Was she going to be Alyssa's stepmother? And what about Eloise, Al's ex-wife and her former English teacher? Was Tiffany only a pretty jigsaw piece in Al's aforementioned midlife crisis? Or is Nate having issues with his own middle age and projecting through his characters? Sometimes, especially when they were having sex, Tiffany would look at Al and see the young man buried beneath the layer of worn skin, and it made her want to cry. The young guy on the treadmill, who barely sweated, winked at Tiffany. She smiled back and imagined it would be nice to be with a man who didn't talk to his dick and wasn't close to scheduling a colonoscopy. The crowd around the weight bench grew. With 10 minutes left in their 40 minutes of cardio, Tiffany signaled for Al to take out his earbuds. Al complied. What's up, babe? I think we need to talk. Right now? Right now. The crowd in the free weight section started to grow as more 45-pound plates clanked against each other, mass on mass, steel on steel. Confused, Al looked at Tiffany. Then his eyes rolled back and he fell off the elliptical machine, his body hitting the floor. Tiffany screamed and jumped off the machine, kneeling beside Al, holding his head in her lap. Somebody help! The gym employees rushed to Al as the crowd by the free weight section parted, and a man with a bald dome and inky black hair pulled into a tight ponytail hopped off the weight bench and beat the employees to the scene. The Seagull lifted Al into his arms and carried him to the front lobby. Tiffany followed them. "What are you doing?" she asked the Seagull. "An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon the stick," said the Seagull. "And sometimes they talk to their dick." "Where are you taking him?" Tiffany asked. "I'm taking him home," the Seagull said. And everyone watched as the Seagull, carrying an unconscious Al, sprouted billowy white wings from his shoulder blades and flew into a cloudless sky on an otherwise mundane Monday morning. And Al would be okay. And Tiffany and Eloise too. But the young guy with his hat on backwards, he was a premature ejaculator.
Nice
Maybe
job.
Nate is projecting. I don't know.
Are you sure it was him?
What? I don't know anything. I know nothing, Rob.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to read one of mine and then I'll close it out and read Grand Burrito?
Yeah, we can do that. Well, and then you can do Grande Burrito, and I'm gonna read the last poem from your collection, Robbie.
Okay, bud boy.
So this is from Robbie's book, Turning on the Wasp. Great backstory too on this. And it's called The Thing About Courage. The thing about courage is it's free. Thing about courage is once obtained, it's a relentless force. Thing about courage is it's capable of catapulting you to places you only read about going. The thing about courage is once harnessed, you're hooked for life. Thing about courage is the fear you once envisioned soon reveals itself as a mere mosquito bite. Thing about courage is no one really cares if you have it or not, except you. The thing about courage is you can share it with others, stretch it wide across counties and midways. Thing about courage is the power you capture will be bigger than any fear you ever avoided. Thing about courage is it's there, way down deep inside you, huddled behind your pride and persona, ready to pounce on your troubles. Thing about courage is it's bigger than religion, bigger than sex, bigger than money, bigger than hope, bigger than dope, bigger than us all. Now release it from its thorny cage and watch the world fly beside you. Good stuff, Robbie.
Thank you, brother. Thank you very much. Beautiful read. Great read. Okay, this comes from my good buddy Graziano, the Grande Burrito. I always love his stuff. This is called the Grande Burrito. I cannot finish the Grande Burrito, having barely left a dent. Whatever is the opposite of grande in Spanish, that is me. I also cannot dive into a body of water or parallel park a car or bench press my own weight. When challenged in conversation, I cannot snap off a quick or witty turn of phrase. I cannot unclasp a bra with one hand or kiss a girl first without 10 drinks in me. I cannot execute the little things. Forget the grande. I cannot tell a lie.
Thank you, Robbie.
Yeah, pal, I love that.
All right.
So I guess it's time for us to jump into some audience questions, huh?
Sure.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
let's start with this one from Carol, who says, how much do you think about your potential audience when approaching a book? That one, either of you could answer that, or both.
Go ahead, Graz.
I I think when you're starting a book, it's probably detrimental to be thinking too much about an audience. And I'm going to kind of rip off Stephen King on this and just say, you know, typically it's best to write for an ideal reader, with one person in mind. I think as you start to revise and you start to think about, you know, maybe marketability, you know, it's a tough question because you want to remain true to the work, yet at the same time you don't want it to be so esoteric that you and maybe two other people are the only people who want to read it. So you know, my answer to that is not much when I start, maybe a little bit more as I revise.
Yeah, and I would say as far as writing to my audience, I'm writing first for myself and how I hear it. It's got to be conversational. Anything I've ever written, whether it's for poetry or columns or whatever, as long as it sounds conversational, as long as it sounds natural, and as long as it sounds as close to me as I can possibly get, that's who I'm writing for. And I feel like if I'm being true to how I sound, and if I'm actually buying my own bullshit, then hopefully somebody else will.
All right. All right, let's see. Nate from Janine. Nate, you chose Northborough as a fictional place, but are folks wondering if you're really talking about the Northborough in Mass?
No. In fact, I was talking to Robbie about this too. Northborough, actually, I didn't realize it was an actual place until after the book was published and someone brought it to my attention. I mean, I guess anything that's sort of Anglo-Saxon sounding is probably been already used. Northborough, the fictional town in the book, is actually an amalgam of West Warwick, Rhode Island, where I grew up, and Manchester, where I live now. And that was sort of that was the landscape and that I had in my mind as I was creating that fictional town.
All right. Rob, do you feel like poetry helps you work through emotions and that you feel better or purged of it once you've written it down? And is your burst of poetry over?
It is so not over. I can't get away from it, it seems. I wrote 3 poems today. I think I've written about 250 poems since April. I'm waiting for it to stop. But I'm still enjoying it. And the second I stop enjoying it, then I'll just put it away and I'll send a text to Carol and say, I'm back. It's certainly not over. I'm loving it. And I'm reading probably more of it than I ever have. And what was the first part of the question again?
Do you feel better or purged when you write? Like, does it help you with your emotions?
Well, you know, with this book, I have to be honest. I think it came out so fast and so quick because 99% of it was not autobiographical. It was just for I was writing strictly for the art of poetry and stitching lines together, making words blend, and trying to come up with images which in each sentence that would form some sort of cohesive thought. So this particular time, I worked out, I had a first book that was out there called Notes from the Last Breath Farm. I think I spilled my guts enough to last me a good decade. This has been perfect for me.
All right. Nate, do you feel like you've created a character that could translate to the cinema? Do you even think about that when you're creating?
No, I try not to. I couldn't, I couldn't see where the seagull would necessarily translate onto a small or big screen, just because
That'd be a great short film.
yeah, but I mean that the special effects of just making the wings sprout from his shoulders, and I mean I guess you could do that with I guess computer
Yeah.
digital imagery, all that sort of stuff, but no, I typically don't think about movies when I'm writing fiction. I try to sort of stay focused on the story itself. But the strange thing is, and I've explained this to people before as well, when I write fiction, I do see kind of like film reels and movies that go on in my head. They're playing in my imagination, and a lot of times I just kind of feel like a medium between that, if that makes any sense.
Sure it does.
All right, let's close out with this question again for Nate. Can you explain cabinets and why Rhode Islanders don't call them milkshakes?
Well, I mean, it's the same thing that you guys don't have coffee milk either, and yeah, so and the same thing with rotaries. That blew my mind. When what do they call it? Roundabouts or turnabouts or whatever. But
Traffic
yeah,
circles.
traffic circles, or yeah, we always call them rotaries. But yeah. So I always remember as a kid getting coffee cabinets. It just and awful awfuls. Fun story that when I was growing up at Newport Creamery, right? You if you drank 3 awful awfuls, which are about probably 2,000 calories per shake, you would get a free one. So my buddy and I fasted for about a day, drank our awful awfuls, ended up throwing up awful awfuls in the parking lot on our way out. But we got our free one. I don't think I ever used that though. I don't think I've had an awful since.
That feels like that's an excellent way to make sure that people don't try to keep gaming the system. Like once you've had
no.
three, you don't want to do it again.
Well, I'm here. I'm here as a PSA. You know what? Regardless, don't do it. Don't drink the 3 awful awfuls.
All right. Some sage advice to close out our event here tonight. Both of these books are available from Gibson's Bookstore, and those books are Fly Like the Seagull and Turning on the Wasp. Nathan Graziano, Rob Azevedo, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, everybody who came on.
Have a great night.
Thank you.